You know, everybody recently has been talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 and what exactly is going to entail and whether or not we're going to see Metroid Prime 4 or, another Pokemon's Legends game or Gen 5 remix, even a 3D Mario potentially happening for the Nintendo Switch 2. All that kind of stuff people are talking about, but I'm here to discuss about Kirby because what about him, you guys? Like, what does he have to offer for us in the future? So yeah, we're gonna be talking about Kirby, and it's very rare that I do talk about the pink goofball. I mean, if you look at the channel, most of my stuff is Mega Man, Sonic, Pokemon, Mario, more Mega Man, Capcom stuff, but rarely Kirby. And it's funny to me because I did talk about Kirby in the past. I did lay out my first impressions on Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the 3D platformer that Kirby finally had that released in 2022 of March. And then of course we can't forget that I did a few reviews here and there of the first Game Boy game, Kirby's Kirby's Dream Land, and then Dream Land 2, and Kirby's Adventure. I've done my fair share of Kirby homework, don't get me wrong. So I do have some validation in discussing the future of Kirby, but of course, guaranteed you have to understand why I don't really talk about it, because I mean, look at the analytics. I think that pretty much says it for itself. But nah, like I said, we're talking about the future of Kirby, and in my case, I have a lot to talk about because guaranteed nobody has talked about Kirby in the past few days now, it going into 2024 or even during the course of 2023, because the last thing that we have of Kirby besides Forgotten Land is Return to Dreamland Deluxe, which released almost a year ago. To jump ahead to February, it released around that last year. So that's about it in terms of Kirby, in terms of next gen stuff, or at least for what we know at the moment. And of course, we can't forget Kirby the Amazing Mirror, and then Kirby's Return, Nightmare in Dreamland, all that kind of stuff on the Nintendo Switch Online services for the GBA. Kirby is... we're feasting, Kirby fans are feasting. They have been feasting, and I think they're going to be feasting is what I'm getting at here. But of course, the question remains, what exactly are they going to be feasting? What is that dream buffet that all the Kirby fans would want to expect moving forward, either this year, next year, or during the whole timeline of the Nintendo Switch 2? So I have a couple ideas here and there. One of them is obviously whether or not we're going to get a 3D Kirby or a 2D Kirby next. And granted, in my case, I think it's best that we continue with the 3D Kirby stuff because Forgotten Land was absolutely an amazing game, not just for Kirby, but also for 3D platformers. When you look at that game from a 3D platformer perspective, you see that they really took a lot of care and dedication to making sure that it's not just a Kirby game in 3D, but it's a full-fledged 3D Kirby game. Something that a lot of people have really acknowledged when it released, and something that I'm very excited to hopefully see more down the line. Similar to how we have 2D Metroid with, Metroid Dread, and then of course 3D Metroid with the Prime series, and with Zelda, we have the 2D Zelda games and the 3D Zelda games, and naturally with Mario Odyssey and then Mario Wonder. So in regards to Kirby, guaranteed something like that is bound to happen, and a 3D Kirby game would definitely benefit the Nintendo Switch 2, especially given, again, how much of a good reception Kirby and the Forgotten Land got back in its day. But of course, does this mean that we have to negate the 2D Kirby side of things? No. Similar to, again, Mario, Zelda, and Metroid, you can have 2D and you can have 3D work together and harmonize in some cases. So of course, we're bound to see more 2D Kirby stuff. Hopefully, in my case, especially, in regards to 3D Kirby, I would love to see more of the art style that they managed to give for Return to Dreamland Deluxe, because when you look at that game, you see that they were dedicated to giving Kirby a fresh new art style, a fresh lens into the 2D platforming genre, and it's kind of like the Mario Wonder effect. It was Mario Wonder before Mario Wonder released. If we go by the timeline of Nintendo releases for a second here, it was kind of like that. And I would love to see more of that art style for future Kirby games, because it does a lot in kind of characterizing Kirby in the best ways possible. In some ways, it reminds me a lot of Kirby's Dreamland 3 on the SNES, because it gave that distinctive art style that's truly unique, and it also helps in terms of elevating its status as a game per se in regards to art design and art direction. So again, kind of like Mario Wonder, a lot more of that would be truly amazing for Kirby in that regard. But in terms of a 2D Kirby game, honestly, anything is possible. Kirby does an excellent job in the 2D department because that's what it's known as. It is known in the 2D department more so than the 3D one, because again, Forgotten Land is the only 3D Kirby game ever made, unless you count Kirby's Air Ride, but I don't think anybody would want to count that. I mean, you do you, I guess, but Forgotten Land is the only 3D game we have, so naturally Kirby shines a lot in the 2D setting. But in terms of like what the contents could be about and how they would play around with the difficulty and all that, do what Dreamland did, Return to Dreamland Deluxe did, and kind of amplify that a little bit more. You can take notes from the people that worked on Mario Wonder in terms of adding more content, adding more of that difficulty curve, and allowing, you know, additional content to thrive in some aspects for 2D Kirby. Something like that would truly benefit the Karibo dude, the big goofball. And naturally, it would be a really good platformer. I've never heard of a bad Kirby game, and even if there is a bad Kirby game, it's more like a milquetoast Kirby game at worst. You know, like you have your good Kirby games, your great Kirby games, and your peak fiction Kirby games, and I've never heard of a bad Kirby game since. But aside from all that, that's pretty much it. You know, kind of like a Kirby game, short, sweet, and to the point. And naturally, we're bound to see some content for Kirby in some time in the near future. You know, like Kirby is one of those funny franchises where it's gonna get content no matter what. Like either it's another GBA port, either somehow they decide to localize something that was for Japan exclusive and they're like, hey, we'll give it to the States now, or they'll just somehow give us a Switch port of, I don't know, the 3DS games. Like, who's to say they're not gonna do that? Guaranteed they're gonna do that. Like, I should stress that now since we're talking about the future of Kirby here. But what I'm trying to say also is that this video is more about just hoping for 3D Kirby and 2D Kirby, but naturally that's gonna happen. So this is like a moot point of a video. Like, it's just me wanting to talk about Kirby, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, throw your comments down below, Kirby fans. If you want me to talk more about Kirby, I'm down with it. You know, I do want to go back to Kirby content in the future, especially since I was really enjoying my time with the reviews that I did almost like 2 years ago. I would love to pick that back up, but naturally that if you guys want more of that, do it all in the comments and watch those videos too, and let me know if you really want more Kirby. But you know, I need to see your input. Anyway, this is all for Kirby. Kirby's obviously, you know, I would not be surprised tomorrow there's some announcement for a Kirby game or something, knowing my luck and knowing the luck of the Kirby fans. So yeah, here's to Kirby and the Forgotten Land 2, I guess. I don't know. Let's just roll the outro.